afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the final day of MATS and the last Pro Talk. I'm Tom Kirk of IBI Security Transport, and I'm joined with four lovely and talented young ladies here on the stage. Anne Marie Michel on my left, immediate left, who's a professional photographer. Janelle Grapes, who's a truck driver. Idella Hansen, who's also a truck driver. And past executive and board member and a whole bunch of other things with Real Women in Trucking. And we have Deb Deserato. And these ladies are all part of the Sisterhood of the Road. And what we want to talk a little bit about this afternoon is driver image, the importance of driver image, and how the public perceives us and we help perceive ourselves, and how we can use that to better the industry. A number of years ago, I was at a truck stop in New Jersey, and I was in my company uniform, freshly shaved, showered, looked pretty good, or at least I thought that. And this older couple walked in with their grandkids, and they were talking about going to the bathroom, and the grandmother was heading towards the bathroom with the grandkids. And I kind of politely said, at this particular truck stop, the only bathrooms are over here. And she looked, first of all, horrified that a truck driver would talk to her. And then she looked even more horrified that they were going to have to use the trucker bathrooms. I says, don't worry, they're clean. It's a TA. They do a really good job of keeping them here. And the poor husband's going, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I mean, he looked mortified. And that kind of had an impact on me. It's like, here I am trying to present a professional image, and yet I'm treated as just another truck driver. So how is it that people see us? And I was personally getting maybe a little bit down on myself, as I think sometimes we can when everybody's looking down on truck drivers. And along came this young lady. And she gave me a different perspective of how we look like. Because we sometimes see how we see ourselves, and we think we see how we see our other selves. But Anne Marie, as a photographer, can show us how we actually look. So first of all, Anne, how did you get up with this idea of the Sisters of the Road project and just wanting to do this and kind of involved in trucking? Because, I mean, you're a successful professional photographer, have done red carpets, all kinds of celebrity shoots. Why truck drivers?
Well, I'd never actually met a truck driver before I started this. So the inspiration came from my mother. She drove us across the country to start a new life. So we were the original Sisters of the Road. And that's the parallel that kind of drew me to these women. They're constantly driving across the country. And when I actually met one, finally, which took a while, sitting in a truck stop for 3 days did not get me very far, because there's only 7% of women are truck drivers. And when I eventually found some of these women, heard their stories, they are inspiring, resilient. When the going gets tough, these tough women get moving and rebuild their lives, and that was the connection in them. So it's been amazing to meet all of these women. Yeah, and I'll let them tell you their stories.
So we're going to do this afternoon maybe a little different than what you're used to. As I remember to hit the magic button, we'll be cycling through some of the pictures throughout the afternoon. And obviously, if any of you want to comment on something that you see, feel free to jump in. But we're going to also encourage you, the audience who's here today, if you have a question for these ladies or want to comment on something, let me know, and I'll run around here throughout the time we have together with the microphone. But let's start off with something. And Janelle, since you're closest to me, we're going to start off with you. How did you get into trucking? Why did you get into trucking?
My mother was ill, and come to find out, my sister and I had some testing done. My sister has lupus. I ended up with rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease, and fibromyalgia. I couldn't work in a hospital anymore. I couldn't walk on concrete anymore, because I was doing retail. And I needed a steady income. She wanted me to have a steady income before she passed away. And at that point, we were in a financial bind at home. I had 4 kids, 3 horses, a dog and a cat, and a husband that just fell in the barn, 14 feet. We were trying to get back on our feet, and it was time for me to go back full time. And that's how I got started back. The family goes back, clean back to my great-grandfather. Started out with stagecoach driving. So it runs in the family.
Idella, I usually put you next. I'm going to do something different and make you go last today. Deb, how did you get started in truck driving?
Well, I'm one part gypsy, two parts whiskey, I guess. My older brother was a truck driver. When I was 13 years old, I was like a terror kid. And my mother shipped me over to New Zealand to spend some time with my older brother, who was a truck driver. And that's probably the best thing she ever could have done for me. So I still remember the first load. It was a load of Levi's, back when they were made in San Francisco. So I thought trucking was the coolest thing ever, you know. And I knew right then, when I grow up, I'm going to be a truck driver. Here I am. Over.
I'm trying to get my little magic pointer thing working. I guess I messed it up. I'll figure it out here in a second. But Idella, so how did you get started in trucking, and why trucking?
Pays good, money. Money and stupidity. No. Old man, I won't go into the whole story, but the old man across the street was in his late 80s, and he liked to go down to Orange County to watch the roller derby, the Thunderbirds and the ladies. So he taught me how to drive a 41 Chrysler with suicide doors, and I fell in love with driving right then, whether it was trucks or whatever it was. If it went bud and it started, I could drive it.
So I think one of the questions I have for you, with kind of the story I opened off with, there is a perception that a lot of people have of truck drivers. And we're going to start off with you this time, Deb. When you hear the word truck driver, what are some of the things you think of as a truck driver, or wish that people would see a truck driver as?
Well, I think the first impression that people would have, or the first image that most people would have, would be big, hairy, smelly, burpy, you know, dude, in a flannel shirt.
Phew, it's striped.
But it's changing now. I mean, that's how it was back in the day. But, you know, we're out there. We may only be 7%, but we're out there, and we're changing the image, kind of, a little bit.
And I really think you are. I think from my perspective as a male driver, and I haven't been in long in this as some of you ladies have, I've only been in it for 17 years driving, you're definitely seeing more female drivers coming out there. You're definitely seeing them take a bigger presence, and I think becoming more involved in leading some of the issues in the industry, which we'll kind of get to here in a second. Idella, basically the same basic question that I just asked Deb is what perception do you wish the public would have, or how do you see drivers?
Well, wish they had. The important thing is a lot of things, and I look at it because I remember the blue jeans. The truck drivers I knew back then when I started had starched jeans, big cowboy belt, Western shirt, pack of cigarettes, and a cup of coffee. And what I wish they looked like, or how they present themselves, you just have to remember in your heart, no matter what style that you have, the only thing anybody has by judging me is what they see and then what comes out of my mouth. And I really think it's important that as drivers, we think of that. Now, whether you want to wear short skirts or high heels, or you want bling bling, it's all a matter of choice. But the only way you have of judging me, if you never met me, is by how I present myself and what comes out of my mouth.
And I think that's something we all tend to forget is, you know, there's an old saying, perception is reality. But the thing is, yeah, how you dress can give a first impression, but those first words that come out of your mouth makes a lot. And if you have trucker Tourette's, the public is going to remember that. But if you speak with some common sense, it may not be the most eloquent, or might be with a heavy accent, you can get a message across, which is being polite. She does not have an accent. You listen with one. So I'm going to also ask you the same question here, Janelle, is how do you think truck drivers are perceived, and how do you wish they were perceived?
It's a reputation that goes with the times. I happen to agree with Idella, except she forgot to Brill cream in the hair. you
We
know.
got the real cream.
That was the thing back there. And I mean, if you're walking into, say, a retail store and you need help from a clerk, do you want them to walk up to you with flip-flops on and sweatpants and a torn t-shirt? This is what our customers are seeing whenever we walk in to either pick up or deliver. Is that company going to be asked to come back? No, I wouldn't. If I was an owner of that company, no. It gives the perspective of it's a lack of responsibility from the driver. And when people walk into truck stops, back in the day, you didn't take your family. When you went on vacation, you didn't go into truck stops. You went into the Exxon stations, a regular gas station. And now it's called travel centers. So everybody shows up. It's like Buc-ee's with no trucks. You know, they don't see us in there. And when we walk in, and we're all guilty of doing this, is, oh, look at the baby. Isn't he or she so sweet? And you get this look from a parent, like, oh my word, you know. Or one of them's crying, and it's, oh, honey, what are you crying about? And this gives a perspective to the public. If you're dressed nice or in a uniformed company, it gives an idea of a nurse dressed in a nurse's uniform or a doctor. It's the same concept. And nowadays, these people, yeah, I like to drive comfortably. I wear the jeans, the t-shirt, a company shirt, whatever I have with me, or whatever I pull out of my closet that day. But I go into an establishment, whether it be a truck stop or a company, and be patient. I mean, they may be having a bad day just like I am, or a good day just like I am. And just go with the flow.
And picking up on something I've heard all of you ladies say, you know, obviously presentation, it doesn't have to be fancy clothes, just as long as they're clean, neat, preferably no ketchup stains down the front. Wouldn't know ever how that would have happened to somebody. But in all honesty, a lot of it is kind of what you say and how you treat people. If you go in there and you've got a driver, particularly if they're from your company ahead of you and they're treating people less than politely, less than appropriately, now you've got to come in, and after that, and you know, you're 2 or 3 drivers next in line, and you go, who do you drive for? Stevens Transport, I'm sorry. As you hand the paperwork and kind of hide, and it's, oh no, it's not your fault, he's just, yeah, I know, he's special. And now at that point, there's a little bit of that humor, there's a little bit of laughter, the tension's broken, and they now realize that everybody at that company isn't being a entitled jerk like that other driver was. And I think one of the things I've noticed is a lot of female drivers are better diffusing that tension than the guys are, because they have an understanding of what it's like to be on the other side of things on some level. You had something you wanted to say, Idella? Or?
When they see me, and I think this is probably a community thing, I would like them to know that I'm not any different than they are. Now, we're not talking about other truck drivers, that I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a wage earner. I know a lady that was a concert musician and a teacher, that we're not just truck drivers, we're just people just like they are. And if they want that, you know, I want the respect. I want respect because I feed and clothe them.
And I think that's really what it's important is, and I know you really have more stories on this you can share. You're one of the women who in many ways pioneered being a mother and a truck driver. You're not the only one, there's quite a few others. But you're one of the ones who had to earn that respect and everything else. And there's definitely a lot of stories we can share, and we might even do some of that throughout here. I want to give Anne Marie a chance. Is with these ladies who you've met, what are the perceptions you have of them and of truck drivers in general?
Well, I think there's stereotypes in any industry. the beauty of photography and my project and the way I go about it, I interview each individual person first, and then we make an image kind of together collaboratively. So people might start looking at the book or at the project or at these images or start meeting truck drivers in general and have those stereotypes to begin with. But then you get to see them. All these women are looking at you. You get to see them in their own environments. You get to read their stories. And all of these stories are in their own words. They tell about their lives. And within that, you see, one, what amazing people they are, how many similarities and parallels and incredible things and stories and so much tapestry of life that you all have. And there's every single person I've come across, whether they've met a truck driver or not, just have so much respect. One, for the people they are, but two, for the hard jobs that you do. And it is a hard job and a hard world to move within. So I think we're at MATS. This is a trucking industry event, but we've been to art events and taken this places. It's been to lots of different areas, and everyone has just been amazed at these women, at the truck drivers, and wider, everything from safety to all these different areas. And I think stereotypes have been broken, and that's really important. And I know that's important for all of you too. When I ask you, what do you want out of this work? And it's been really great to watch you guys take control of it and tell your stories and show people around and do what you want to do with it. And you guys are managing to break those stereotypes and take it forward. So I'm looking forward to what you do next with it.
The one thing that Anne Marie did is she did talk to all of us before she took our pictures. Then she took and she captured each one of us, our personalities and our attitude, and that's talent. That's talent.
It really is, because I've gotten to know quite a few of you ladies, and some of you I've known for quite a while. And looking at that, I can see in those pictures, this matches the personality: a strong, independent woman, a multi-functional woman who's also a musician, a woman who's working hard to support her family. All of these things come through. And I think that's important. And for those of you who are not familiar with Sisters of the Road, I think maybe we've been dancing around it. Now's a good time to explain more about what it is. And Sisters of the Road, well, actually, why am I doing this, Anne Marie? You did it.
Okay, Sisters of the Road is a series of portraits of 40 trucker women and their stories in their own words that are shown alongside and the landscapes they travel. It's a book. It's been exhibited around the world, in Europe and Australia, and this is the first time it's being shown here in the USA. It's an amazing work which keeps transforming, and it has its own life now, and it's gotten its own wheels literally underneath it. And it's really great to be able to hand this work off to these women and say, where are you going with it next?
And it really is something there. And if any of you haven't, well, it's going to be a little late now, but they have had a wonderful exhibit in the North Hall in the Sisters of the Road trailer mobile exhibit by Uber Freight. And I think this is the last show, as far as I know.
For right now.
Okay, so hopefully you'll come back and do more, and hopefully we can get Deb or one of the other wonderful ladies up here to pull it again. But, actually, Deb, what are some of the experiences you've had pulling the trailer? Has this maybe given you a different viewpoint on something, or some different stories, or what's some of the things that you've experienced being the driver of this exhibit?
Well, firstly, I don't ever want to haul freight again. This freight ain't fun. This has been such a fun tour. I've had a blast. Loved every minute of it. Just, I had to get into some weird places, like Uber's corporate office building, which is not designed for even delivery trucks, little trucks. That was kind of weird, but, and the Photo Fest in Houston had to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning to get in behind the silos where trucks don't normally go. So it's a little bit tricky, but with some careful planning, it was okay. But it's been a real eye-opener to watch the reactions of people who've never seen anything like it, because there's never been anything like it. It's a mobile gallery. it's very unique. No, it's just unique. It doesn't have to be very unique.
That's right.
So it's been a wonderful experience, and so many people, especially in Houston, that had nothing to do with trucking, but everything to do with arts. And watching their reactions to it, they'd never, been inside a trailer, and it ended up being a touch of truck for adults, which was a whole lot of fun. I just let everybody in my truck and bonk, bonk, and hit all the buttons and stuff. It was really cool, and it was educational for them too. So,
And I think that's how we start changing some of the perceptions of the industry, is by opportunities like this, by you ladies featuring in a book like this, sharing your stories, opening up to some of your family experiences, which isn't always easy on stage. But something else I wanted to touch on today with some of the time that we have is, I know all three of you ladies are involved in other things, whether it's charities, advocating for safe truck parking, and various other issues. And I think this is, something that you've done before this book and had a passion before. Has the book in some way encouraged you to keep on doing it? Maybe has it opened up some new opportunities for you? Or just as importantly, why do you think it's important for drivers to get involved on various issues that are important to you? It could be truck parking, it could be cancer or awareness of other diseases. How can we use our platform as drivers to raise awareness and get the changes we'd like to see, whether it's in our personal causes we believe in or industry-wide causes? Who wants to go first?
I'll give it a shot. I think there's a million opportunities for this gallery now, and the interest that's been shown from some big name organizations. There's opportunities to use it as an educational thing, like safe motoring around tractor trailers, public safety, also as a recruitment tool for at high schools, colleges, that kind of thing, to get more women into trucking. I think there's many uses for it going forward, and we've barely scratched the surface, right?
And I think that's important, because I think anytime we can, and I'm going to throw Idell, I'm going to kind of throw you under the bus for a second. When I found out about this project and everything else, one of the first things I did is, how can we leverage both the book, all of you ladies working in it, into a voice or a platform to encourage drivers to do more? Because yes, as a driver, it's important to do things on your own, but sometimes having that network or knowing there's other people doing things around you can be supportive. I mean, Idella, you've done so many different things in the trucking industry. Share two.
How many?
Two.
It has, it was an education. I learned how to run QuickBooks. I'm not as much of an electronic dummy as I used to be. Why don't you ask me a question I can answer?
When was the last time you knew me to ask you something to do something easy? So, all right, let's pick on something that I know you have a passion for: truck parking.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, they're coming up with all these, there's money out there, and there are simple solutions, but we're not taking advantage of it. And there's some more going on, and I've had my eyes opened in the last couple of months to what's going on. And at the end of the day, when I'm going into an area where there's no parking, I need to feel safe. I need to be able to park, and I need to be able to, no, I'm not going to say that. It's important. It's important not just to the people that run by themselves, and it's not just women. Any subject you touch on knows no age, no gender, no color. And we have to take care of each other. It's important. Pick on somebody else.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pick up a little bit on what you said here for a second before I move on to Janelle. Is, like you said, there's so many issues in trucking, and people, I think, do tend to focus on, well, it's important for Group X or Group Y. But if we look at Jason and Hope Rivenberg, truck parking doesn't matter on gender. We lost Jason because of some stupid people. Hope doesn't have a husband. Her kids don't have a father. Truck parking doesn't matter if you're male, female, or anything else. If safe truck parking is something that everybody deserves, and he's a good example. But Hope and other ladies like her, and I know some of them are here on this stage right now, were determined to make sure that that incident wasn't in vain. Has some good come out of it? Yes. Does more good need to come out of it? Definitely. But it's a starting point, just like I think this whole project's a starting point. So, I mean, Janelle, I know you have a bunch of different things you're passionate for and advocating both for female drivers as well as some other issues. What are some of the experiences that maybe you've had before or you've had because of this project that you're trying to take and move forwards with?
I do a lot of touch-a-trucks, make-a-wishes, within my county in Bedford. What I like to do is educate the public, the general public. I've been a firefighter, first responder for over 25 years now. And it seems to work whenever you go into organizations and let them get into the truck, and it's like, wow, I didn't know this was up this high. Oh, wow, I can't see that car beside of your truck. I didn't realize there was a blind spot there. And with the fire service, my husband and I went into church groups and scouts and private organizations and taught fire safety. And we were 180 calls. And after we did this for a year, we went down to between 60 and 80 calls a year. If I can teach that new driver that this is an 80,000-pound piece of equipment, truck and trailer, loaded, and what it can do to you if you cut it off, I've saved a life, I've done my job.
And that is so true. So, Anne Marie, that's going to be a bit of a tough one to follow. You've done a lot with this project. I'm sure you have some more goals you'd like to see come out of it. What are some of the things you'd like to see happen out of it, whether it's things that you're personally involved in or maybe things that happen in the industry? You know, some of the lessons that you've maybe, or stories that you've heard over the past several weeks, what are some of the key things that stand out to you?
I think there's so many possibilities with this. There could be, I think each individual woman has their own passions and advocacies, and the amazing thing about this particular project, it's a platform, and it gets eyes and ears and people, and I'm always asking them, like, what do you need to be changed? What do you need to be heard? Who do you want to hear your voice? And then I try and find that person or that place or the thing. So it's working together to figure out where it needs to go. And I think that's going to be the nice thing of how it can continue to have life. And it's had an amazing life up until this point. We have exhibitions and things. There's going to be possibly a bit of a documentary. There's museums in Washington, D.C. that want to show it, some more in London. There's more eyes and ears coming. So I guess wherever you point that energy towards, and that's not for me to decide. It's for all of these women to decide, and the wider community as well.
I think that's one of the takeaways I'd like to come away from the project at large, and as well as what we're doing here today. Yes, we're focusing on these four ladies, but these three truck drivers and some of the things that they do and the involvement that they have, not just locally, but nationally and even beyond. But the whole purpose is, what can you do? You know, as a driver, you don't necessarily have to be in a book. You don't necessarily have to be involved in something fancy, but you can respond to FMCSA requests for comments. You can call your local and state and federal politicians and comment on issues in the area, whether it's truck parking or a lot of other things. I want to kind of, in a moment here, just see if anybody in the audience has questions, but I want to ask you three ladies, based on what I just said now, is there one or two issues you'd like to see drivers become more active in voicing on? We'll start with you this time, Janelle.
Oh, man. Two issues.
One or two.
Skip me, go on to the next one.
Our next victim, please.
Education. Education. It starts at the very beginning with in high school.
Yeah.
Training, education, information, how to be safe out here on the road, not just in a big truck, but in four-wheelers. And what's my second one? Compassion.
That is actually one I really like because one of the things that I've picked up on you that all three ladies you have pointed out this afternoon is we all deal with different things. But if I had to pick one thing as a driver that I'd like to be seen as a human being, during the pandemic, we don't have enough time to go down that conversation today. But I've kind of forgot what it was like to be human. And Idella, you and I had many a conversation as we work for the same company. We forgot what it was like to be human. We were basically locked in our trucks, kind of kicked out of truck stops. We forgot what it was like to be human. And I think that if I have one thing I wish, and I don't know if there's a policy on that, I wish drivers could encourage everybody else, just treat each other like human beings. It sounds simple, but I think it's sometimes overlooked. Deb, your turn.
Could you repeat the question? Because I think it went a little bit off topic. What was the question?
Deb, we're truck drivers. When was the last time we ever stayed on topic?
Okay. Was it like 2 issues or something?
If there's one or two issues that you wish drivers could encourage others that you think are the hot button or key issues that drivers should become more involved in.
Okay, there's exactly 2 that are of most concern to me.
Okay.
One is the inflexible hours of service. I wish we could stick together and fight back because they're bombarding us with these regulations. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. We never do. You know why? Because truck drivers cannot agree on the price of a free cup of coffee. We need to stick together.
Yeah.
And the reason they keep bombarding us with more and more regulations is because we don't stick together. We don't stand up and fight for our rights.
Yeah.
And it's got to come to a point where enough's enough. You know, they're talking speed limiters now, okay? But let's go back. The inflexible hours of service and the lack of truck parking, okay? We're pushed and pulled in a million directions. You got a dispatcher telling you, go, 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 cracking that whip, a shipper, a receiver, all giving you, time limits, pushing you, okay? What do you call them? Your planning manager, driver manager, okay? And then you've got, that's the push. Then you got the pull, DOT, your ELD, your hours of service, pull on the reins back. So it's like crack the whip, pull the reins back at the same time. We're not robots here, okay? We're humans.
And every day we put our driver's license on the line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We got to stand our ground. We have to start sticking together because it's not going to stop. These regulations. What's the old saying? Overloaded. What is it? 08 is overloaded with federal regulations. This driver is overloaded with federal regulations. That used to be a sticker. I think I still have one on the back of the trailers. We need to get them stickers back out. We need to fight back.
And that's very true. And there's so many different points of view on hours of service. The thing is, first thing is starting having conversations. You'll never get every driver to agree, but at least if you can understand where there are, that's a starting point. And the one issue that I wish we had more standardization on, that I'm going to do my part to try to push forward, is terminology. Because we hear this term entry-level driver training. Well, does that mean entry-level as in you're getting your CDL for the very first time? Or is entry-level training, you've gotten your CDL, you go to a starter company? They're two very different things. They're related, but the standards are slightly different and should be slightly different. And at one point when everybody's talking entry-level driver training, I was taking it, that was your first job as a driver once you had your CDL. Then I discovered they were talking about a completely different set of things and working for a company while you're getting your license. And these are different conversations. And if we don't understand what the other person's saying, we might be agreeing to something that we totally disagree with. So I think we need to come, not just as an industry, but as an overall community with trucking, a standardization. Janelle, go ahead.
All right, to add on to what these two ladies has said and what you just said, there is a big issue with new drivers. Oh, I went to truck driving school. Well, congratulations, you know how to move that truck, but they taught you in that class just enough to pass the state test. It needs to go beyond that. We're talking not only our own safety, we are talking about the public safety. I don't know about you all, but I like to go home to my family when I can. And I want to make sure that, hey, I'm going to be there Wednesday, I'm there Wednesday morning. And another, when they come out of school and they go to work mainly for a company so they could get the time behind the wheel, that mentor or that trainer, if that driver sticks with that company for a year, there should be some sort of standard or some sort of communication. When that driver has been there for a year, what did you learn along the road that that trainer should have taught you when you signed on? And it's an ongoing project here that I have inquired with a couple of the ladies and Anne Marie, comprising a booklet. And I've gotten with some of our male senior drivers, and they have given a few suggestions of making a booklet or a book where these new drivers can sit down. What do I take with me during training? What is my trainer doing wrong? You know, how do you feel safe with a trainer? I mean, it's like handing the keys to okay, I would trust Idella. Let's go somebody. Throwing my keys out here in the audience to my personal car and say, here, take it for a day. It's a matter of trust. And it's a matter of if I see a new driver coming in with a mentor, and that mentor's not doing their job, I'm sorry, I'll be the first one to stand up there and say, hey, I'll help you back this in. You know, it makes new drivers give up, and that's not what we need. We need to stick together and fight this together.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's one of the takeaways that I've gotten here is that we need to start listening to each other as drivers more, be maybe a little less judgmental, but start working together and start fighting together and bring back the sister and brotherhood of trucking. We've only got a few minutes left, so the reason I've come off stage, does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to ask our panel today?
Idella, this is for you. How many people do you think are at the show are here because they were voluntold by you to be here?
I didn't understand a word she said.
How many people do you think are here at this truck show because they were voluntold by you? A lot.
A bunch.
All right, does anyone else have a question? Then in that case, I'm going to, unless any of our other ladies have anything else they'd like to say or finish. Oh, yep, never mind. Deb?
I just want to let the audience know it was free to get in, but it's $25 to get out.
And the prices went up. It was 20 if you left earlier. Actually, I do want to close on one thing. Anne Marie, if somebody's interested in learning more about the project or getting the book or just seeing where there may be future exhibits, how do they find out about it?
sistersoftheroad.com. We're also on Instagram at Sisters of the Road Tour. Yeah, check it out. All the information will be on there. We'll update it. We don't know where it's going next, but that's the place to find out.
or contact one of the ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anyone that you know that's in the book, I'm sure they'll point you in the right direction.
Well, if no one has anything else, I'm going to close this session, and we're getting out 5 minutes early. So I'm going to put it this way, the Matt's Truck Show is now closed.
Thank you.
Well done, ladies.